one thing. Yeah.
Do you want me to sit here?
Yes, please. But a lot of times we stand over here. Would you like us to sit next? Would you feel less lonely if we sat down?
It doesn't matter. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Then I'm not going to block the loveliness and go keep my ugly ass over here.
I just asked Christina if she was excited for this Q&A and she said no, but then she laughed, so I think she is.
I have traveled a long way from Sweden, you know, so to be honest, I'm a little bit tired, so that's why, probably. But I'm amazed to see so much people, really. So.
We love you!
Before we move into your modeling and film career, do you want to tell a little bit about your family background, where you're from, what growing up was like?
Yes, I'll do that. I sit right here and rest for a while. Yeah. Well, I'm born in the middle of Sweden, you can say.
Hey, dude, down!
Pardon?
No, the guy in front of you.
Sorry. In the second biggest town in Sweden. It's a very long country, you know, but it's in the south of Sweden, and it's a city called Gothenburg, and I was born in the middle of last decade or something like that, 1950. So I have been on the earth for so many years. And I have grown up with my mother and my sister and two brothers, and no father. But I think it's rather common. And I took care of myself when I was small, and I'm still small and taking care of myself. So.
Were you involved in any acting or modeling growing up?
Not when I was that small, but I started around when I was 16 years old. I started my career. It was a photographer, you know, they looked at girls on the beach at that time, and they saw me in, you know, not so much on my body then. And they took some pictures, and the pictures got in those newspaper, and in one more, and so on. And then after some years, I got some kind of fold-out girl. Most of my career has been to be a fold-out girl. But I did some movies too. 25 movies I did. And a lot of fold-outs.
How did this all really start? Were you just sitting at the beach one day and some sleazy person walked up to you and said, "May I photograph you?" I mean, how did it really come to be?
To be honest, I don't really remember how the lines, you know, what he said to me exactly. But, I thought it was a rather good idea because, you know, I really don't know, but, you know, sometimes girls think it's a good idea to show up, or whatever. So, it's hard to explain why you do things sometimes.
When did you first feel that you were beginning to be recognized? I mean, you were in so many publications, you did so many photographs. When did you begin to feel recognized?
When I was around 18 years old, you know, you feel that when you not have to pay, when you go into clubs and, you know, people treat you in a special way, you realize that, you could make some money out of your look. But of course, during this time I was also in school. I don't know if some kind of high school. I was reading languages. My main lessons was in Latin, and I read German, English, French, and Latin. So I stopped school when I was 19 years old. Then, yeah.
What kind of feedback did you get at school in regards to the photographs you were doing?
Yeah, at that time, you know, to be a fold-out girl for 30 or 35 years ago, it was, you know, nice photos, you know, not like today. But at that time, you know, they thought the photos was like the rough photos today. So when I came back had been in the magazine, they had put all the photos in the school around the world, around the walls, I mean. So I was rather confused. And some teacher, they didn't like me to be a photograph girl, of course not. And they asked me if I want to go to school or if I had to choose. And then for half a year I chose the school, and then I finished. And 2 days after I got my examination, you say so, I went up to Stockholm. Stockholm is the capital in Sweden. And you have to live in Stockholm if you have to make a career. And then I start to make a movie 2 days after I had taken my examination. And my first home, it was a hotel in Stockholm. So I lived in a hotel for some months then, making the movie.
How did you end up getting proposition to be in the movie?
That was because of my fold-out pictures. They asked me. It was the most important movie I made. I made a movie called Made in Sweden. It was my first movie. It was a co-production between American and Swedish interest. But people forgot about that. They don't wrote much about that in Sweden. But then I made, it was in Sweden, a very well-known director called Janne Halldorf. And the producers saw the pictures of me, the fold-up pictures. And because I didn't look for that part, but they chose me and said, hello, you can get this Thompson.
Whoa.
It died. Hello. I got that instead.
It died?
Something happened. Yeah.
Battery might work.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah, but a lot of girls have they want that part, but I didn't ask for it. But the director didn't wanted me, but the producer wanted me because he wanted to sell the movie, And I had the body they asked for, because most of my parts, it was because of my look, of course. So that's the fact.
Did you think that it was interesting that an American-produced movie chose you as a Swedish star, even though you don't look especially Swedish?
No, it's a little bit funny because I was the Swedish sin, but I'm not blue-eyed and I'm not blonde, so it's some kind of it's strange in some ways. But they thought I was some kind of sin. I don't know. So.
What movie did you do after Made in Sweden? What was your very next movie?
It was a movie called The Dog Days, and it was a lot of famous Swedish actor in the movie, and me then, and the story was in a very Swedish nature, very nice Swedish nature, but they haven't released that movie, but I hope they will. I think you will like it.
Was it intimidating appearing with big Swedish stars in that film?
Yeah, it was. But thank you. It was a funny period in the Swedish movie when I made those kind of movies, because it was a mix between very famous Swedish actors, because they usually was on the theater scene, but they don't earn enough money to live a good life, so they had to do something else. And then they had parts in those kind of nude movies that I was in then. And it was funny because I was the star, but I was not an actress, but they were really good actors. And the funny thing is that we used the same photographer and the same stuff as, for example, Ingmar Bergman. So they made those movies very seriously. So it was